Welcome everybody to the Mount Baker Amateur Radio Digital Group meeting. And we've got a few things planned for tonight, but before we dive into anything, is there anybody that has brought something they want to talk about or share or show us, or anything that you want to add to the list tonight? Well, if something comes up, don't hesitate to bring it up. And I'm just going to look at the list of participants here. It's mostly all the usual suspects. Bob's here, KC0SO. Say hi, Bob. We haven't seen you in a while. Are you still?
Hi, how are we doing?
Are you still down in Anacortes?
Yeah, I'm still down in Anacortes.
Mm-hmm.
We moved from a multi-story to a single story.
Okay.
We're still doing good. I definitely like the digital group. That's why I come in, but I've been busy with my in-laws, taking care of them, and that's getting relieved right now, so I'm going to have more time to spend doing radio work and Red Cross. Right.
And it's good to see Keith is here. We haven't seen him in a while. David, KF7ZJH, has joined us. Alex, I don't recognize your name. What can you tell us about Alex?
Okay. Yeah, I signed up, I think, last year. I worked with Ed up until he retired in 2007. So yeah, got my ham license in 1988. Got my extra in 2000. Haven't been really active per se, but I still try to keep my license reasonably active. So I'll leave it at that.
Where are you located, Alex?
I'm in Linden.
Linden. Well, that's not far away. Great. You're out there with Kevin and all the cool guys there in Linden. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in case anybody didn't know him, yeah, he was my main guy on the survey crew and stuff back when we were working
Mm-hmm.
together with the state. So.
Yep, I kept Ed busy, him correcting all my stuff.
Yeah, he did. You kept me going too.
No doubt.
And we got our old buddy Dave. We call him Tex. Dave worked with us at the American Red Cross in Bellingham before he moved back to Denton, Texas. Did you get your camera working, Dave?
Yeah, it shows.
There you are.
Picture, and I'm slowly, for a lot of you, I'm putting together a Go kit, and I'm using a B-Link Windows 11 little computer, and it fits almost right in your hand, and it's challenging. I've gotten WinLink RMS to work on it, and it talks to my two VHF UHF radios, the Kenwood's TMD710s, going through Bud's Nexus board, controlling it, and got it to work with that. And I'm trying to get it to work with I have a Pactor modem, and I'm trying to get it to work with that. And I have actually achieved some success with the Pactor modem. And now I'm trying to go for VARA, which is a pretty good challenge. But anyway, I'm moving along with it. Once I get the radio part, or the digital, or the Windows 10, Windows 11 working in the Go kit, then I can go for bigger parts of the Go kit. So anyway, that's my main effort right now.
Thanks, Dave. Is there anybody else that's new to our group out there that I've missed in the list that wants to chime in and say hello before we get going? Okay.
The only thing I would say, Bud, it's good to be back. The my work is still overloading me, but I decided, well, heck with that. I can still do some ham radio, so I'm kind of putting things back together. And for Christmas, I got this Anytone 878 and a hotspot. So I've been kind of figuring out the ins and outs of code plugs and setting up access to local repeaters here. The code plug that came installed is all of the receive and transmit frequencies are simplex direct to the hotspot, right? But I've just been adding on added on most of the local analog repeaters.
Yeah.
But I stopped when I started looking at the DMR stuff because I understood from the main group meeting last week that the code plugs for the 878 for DMR that are out on GitHub, at least according to Bob, repeater Bob, that those are out of date. So I didn't really want to start trying to take the entries out of those code plugs and put them into mine. Wanted to see if anybody.
We have a local code plug for our area. Andy's kind of the guru on that, and Bob Johnson. And Rob, do we have the code plug posted anywhere people can download it?
Actually, I thought we did, but I tried to share the links that I had out, and they were old links. I don't think they were the latest ones, so I don't think we actually publicly have a link to it unless somebody put it on GitHub or some other place that I can't. I didn't look too deep for it. I have a copy locally here, but I modified that for my own. I didn't keep the original because I figured that was kind of a public thing for our Whatcom County groups. So as far as I know, I don't know exactly where the central repository is for that, for all of our groups.
Well, we'll go ahead, Keith.
I saw on GitHub that, Steve had his code plug, and then it looked like, I forget who had another local 878 code plug on GitHub, but it looked like both of those hadn't had any updates in quite some time. And Bob Johnson indicated if the code plug's older than, like, I think he said February of last year, then it's out of date. So I was trying to figure out, okay, who's got the latest, where we keep it. Plus I just have questions, in terms of, usage of these repeaters, the DMR repeaters. But anyway, so that's kind of an interest that I have right now as I'm putting things back together. I'm starting, of course, with the new radio. Yeah, so enough said about that from my point of view. If anybody knows where that code plug is, maybe I just, shout out to Andy and see if he knows where it's kept. If it looks like he's the latest maintainer of it, maybe, or.
Yeah, he's the guy that you would want to go to, and I just shot his email over to Mac. I'm going to send it to you. I think Andy's in Eastern Washington right now, but if you check your chat, there's Andy's email address. He's the guy you would want to ask, and we'll figure out how to get that code plug to you for Whatcom County. It's a good starting point. It's a really good one. They've worked a lot. They put a lot of work into it, and to try to recreate that from square one is going to be a challenge. So it's a good starting point.
All right, great. Thanks. So that's that A9, that email is for Andy?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, we've been fighting a few battles here lately, and one of them is the mystery of Bob Johnson's, and he's not with us tonight, Nexus. Our buddy Chris, who's probably also not with us, Chris lives down in Phoenix, Arizona, and he likes to log into Bob's Nexus board Sunday morning and join us on our Sunday morning FSQ watering hole on 145.58. We usually go from 9 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock every Sunday and chat and whatnot. And he logs in from down south, and all of a sudden, and we don't know why, he's using real VNC, and it's working perfectly. And then out of the clear blue, for some reason, he could no longer connect to it. And we're trying to figure out why. And Bob gave me his SD card, and I was going to investigate, see what was going on. I put it in my Nexus here on Birch Bay, and I had called Chris on the phone and said, let's take a look at this thing. And before we did anything, all I did was boot it up. He logged right in, and he had control of the computer. And so we were going back and forth and trying to figure it out and home in on what it was. And we thought we narrowed it down to something that was going on in his home network, where Comcast suddenly decided that he shouldn't be doing this, and they were preventing it from happening. And we juggled around and did some stuff, and we got it to let us in by shutting it down and restarting it. And basically what I had to do was I went into the Raspberry Pi and I turned VNC off. And then I rebooted the computer, the Pi, and I went in and I turned VNC back on. It still didn't work. And then I rebooted the computer and it worked. So you have to turn it off, reboot the computer, turn it back on, and reboot the computer, and then it works on his home network. Every place else it works fine. And we thought we had it nailed down, and before I got out the door, it did it again, and I just followed the exact same procedure, and it came back up. And so now he's up and running. But that is, I don't know, has anybody seen anything like that? Steve, have you got any input to what might have been going on?
No, I haven't seen that behavior. Now, maybe I misunderstood the first part of that. You saw that behavior when it was on your network. You didn't see any of that behavior. Is that correct?
We didn't make a change.
Okay.
All we did was put the card in the Raspberry Pi and turn it on, and Chris was able to log right in.
Mm-hmm. But
not when it was on Bob's home network.
Right. I don't know. I mean, the cloud connection for VNC, that traffic is initiated by the Raspberry Pi. There's nothing that comes in unsolicited from the network to the Raspberry Pi. So if it was a firewall problem at Bob's house, he would have had to have installed some outbound filtering, which is kind of rare. I mean, for regular folks, they usually don't do any outbound filtering.
So now that you mention that, we did see something unusual. As we were troubleshooting, we decided to try to log in to his Raspberry Pi from his laptop computer. And his, we wanted to see if his laptop computer could work as a server. And because we could log in, that did work. But so we installed the server, the real VNC server software on his laptop. And as we were going through the process, we got a message saying, there's a firewall issue. Would you like us to allow this port through the firewall? And we thought, oh, wonder if that's what's going on. And we said, okay. And it worked. We were able to log into, Chris was able to log into his laptop. And we thought, well, gee, maybe that solved the problem. If it was, would have it been something in his router that we changed?
No,
He
that
wouldn't have changed his router.
no. The error that you were, or that message you were seeing on Windows was likely a Windows firewall. I mean, Windows takes fairly good care. When you install an application, it says, oh, I see that this application actually initiates some connections. I should alert the user to that and seek permission to say, is this okay? Right, so that's on the Windows computer itself. It wouldn't have affected anything on his home network.
So, yeah.
Right.
Okay. Well, it seems to be running now, so we've got that, and then we did have issues. We were having a hard time copying Chris when he was running Bob's station Sunday morning, and I was having a lot of trouble copying a lot of people, and I'm running two stations at the same time. I'm running my own station at home where I seem to have some issues, and I'm remotely running the station in the Blaine Police Department, which has a great antenna and really good coverage. And so, but I was having trouble at both locations. And so you talked about some issues with the sound card on some Raspberry Pis now that we've gone to Bullseye.
Yeah, it's not the sound card per se. It has to do with the video driver that is the default in Bullseye. Doesn't work. The audio part of that video driver, because HDMI, it's specifically for the HDMI port on the Raspberry Pi, whether it's a 3 or a 3B. And as you may or may not know, HDMI can carry audio as well as video. Okay, so there's an incompatibility somewhere in pulse audio, which the Nexus uses, and this video / audio driver that's now the default on Bullseye, when it's used on some Raspberry Pi 3 and 3B plus computers. It's a known problem. It's if you go onto the Raspberry Pi forums, people talk about it. And the fix is to simply disable that parameter that turns on that new video driver in boot/config.txt. You have to edit that as root. You have to go in there and locate a particular line and then comment it out and reboot. And then the pulse audio problems go away. It doesn't affect, as far as I know, it doesn't affect the Raspberry Pi's operation with an attached monitor. It certainly doesn't affect anything with VNC. That continues to work fine. So there isn't any side effect from doing that.
And is there an easy way for us to identify figure out that we have this problem?
Yeah, well, the symptoms are you will get occasional messages if you're running FLDigi using the standard Nexus audio configuration. If you're running FLDigi, you might see an error message pop out that's saying all of a sudden it can't talk to the sound card. There'll be a pulse audio error message. Okay, so that's one symptom. The other symptom is even if it even if FLDigi seems happy and isn't kicking up any error messages, the audio that you are transmitting sounds like it's stuttering or it's choppy, or crackling, which makes it useless, right? The receiver can't decode audio when it's stuttering like that. So that's another symptom that has been fairly widely publicized on the Raspberry Pi forums. Which, by the way, I highly recommend. If you haven't been to the Raspberry Pi forums, wow, what a tremendously great resource there. The folks that write the Raspbian software monitor it, and all kinds of problems are reported and solved there. So it's a good resource.
Great. Well, thanks. We'll watch for that. And then before we go much further, Mark, do you have anything you need to tell us about the treasure stuff? And maybe you and Rob about our being able to use PayPal to pay our dues?
Well, we've had a few people sign up digitally, a few people signing up or renewing and signing up through the mail, and it's all trickling in slowly. We've gone up a little bit in balance. If you want exact numbers, I can give them.
We won't remember anyway.
Yeah. We went up about $50 this month.
Okay.
You can pay your membership dues, fees, whatever you want to call it, through PayPal now. We're still working on come on, Rob, we got to get this done. I want to get it past us. We're supposed to have it shortly for where you can get a subscription, and it will just automatically withdraw for, and I think you get to say I guess we say how many years you can do it, but it'll automatically renew you and withdraw from your account.
Okay.
That's on in the works, but it isn't quite there. But the regular PayPal is where you can do it annually and manually that way. So that's about the end of that.
Throwing stuff around here. So, thanks, Mark. A few meetings ago, Steve was telling us about this Linux computer that you can get that's about the size of your hand, the Inovato, and doing some cool stuff with us. And our buddy Peter, WA7FUS, has started to play around with one, and he was excited about it and telling me about it. And I asked him if he'd share a little bit about what he's discovered tonight. Are you ready, Peter, to talk about that?
Sure, I can tell a few things. Had it running for a couple of days now. I searched around. I knew I had found or seen a link for HamPi for it, and Dave, I can't remember his last name, Slaughter, I guess it is, has modified his HamPi image specifically for the Quadra. So I downloaded it. You put it on an SD card. The SD card image contains the operating system also, and so whereas on the Inovato Quadra you have a non-removable equivalent to an SD card there, and it's got an operating system. It's got some programs and so forth, and you don't have to do any mucking with that at all to shove the SD card in that you go through the hoops of imaging onto an SD card, and suddenly you've got the Raspbian, some version of it, I can't remember, the latest stuff, Bullseye I think it is, on an SD card with the whole suite of HamPi things. And there's just
immense amounts of general purpose things, ham things, graphics, utilities, and all kinds of stuff. And basically, I understand that this computer is equivalent to somewhere between a Raspberry Pi 3 and a 4. And one of the paths I followed was to boot up something called ham clock. I saw an announcement from John Hayes, K7VE, who's doing a lot of things with the Radio Club down in Kingston. And I guess they'd had a program there of putting ham clock separately onto one of these. And, they were going through it. So I did same, booting it up through HamPi. And in case you haven't seen it, let me share my screen just for a moment here and show you what the display looks like from HamPi. You've got your identification you put on it. You've got can be gathering weather information from where you are and then going to whatever other place you choose worldwide, and it searches through the internet and displays the weather there. You've got options of all sorts of things to do with DX spotting and space weather. And
can you get the ISS to show up on that map?
I think you can. I haven't found that yet, but they talked about satellites. So I think the ISS passes is something that you can display on it. And as I say, that's one of the things I'm anxious to do. By clicking on here on terrain, you can choose what the grids look like here, and whether you have DX zones or ITU zones or lat longs, maiden heads, and so forth on these grids. And you can follow the natural path of day and night and so forth, where it's dark and where it's not. And anyway, quite an interesting thing. And then what I did was learned from this documentation of it, of the program, that this particular program has a live HTML link. So all I had to do was find the IP address of my little Quadra and put it into a URL, which the IP address :8080 for the port that the HTML unit was on /live HTML, went to that URL with my web browser here on my Mac. And what you're seeing is the display that I'm seeing in front of me here. That's what I'm sharing. I can see,
Well, I'm sure that means we could put this on our Arden nodes. All you need is an IP address. It's got its own little web server built in then.
Quite possible, yes.
Well, if you can get it on any computer.
Yeah.
Well, if we were to stick it on our Arden network, we should be able to list it as one of the services.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there's all kinds of fun things you can do with it and discover. Also, as I say, all the ham applications they have on it, including the FL Digis and the PAT menu and the Direwolf and all sorts of stuff. There's no sound card on the Inovato, but just for testing it, I'm going to attach my my signal link to it. Between that and the radio, my current HF radio, whereas I used to have the 7300, and I would have been able to just simply go a USB cable between the Quadra and the 7300 and do HF things with it. That isn't quite the way you do it with the Flex radio, but I know there's ways of doing it. I'm not really super interested in doing it right now, except just for sort of as an exercise. I may see what I can do with that. But anyway, it's a neat little computer. It's got lots of possibilities. Ken Koster has also proven that you can take the SVX link software that we have at all of the repeater sites for the PNW 220 network, and it's a capable enough computer that you should be able to use it as either a hotspot to get into PNW things, or use it as the basis for a remote receiver, or all kinds of things within the SVX software. So he's playing with them too. And so anyway, it's a cute little $30+ gadget that all kinds of things you can do with it. One thing, my next project, as I find time, is to put VNC or equivalent on it so that I can run it headless. To do what I'm doing now, I have a little powered USB hub and my mouse and keyboard plugged into it, and that plugged into the Inovato Quadra. But I guess there is an option. The next level up in this, for $10 more, you get a couple of USB ports and a USB hub. But I think a lot of the things I'll probably try to do is doing it headless. So anyway, all kinds of things, all kinds of fun ahead.
Yeah, that's great, Peter. Does anybody have a comment or a question about the Inovato?
Yeah, Peter, not about the unit itself, but about the HAMPI image.
Yeah.
Does he have any kind of provision in there that allow you to update individual programs, or does he?
Oh yeah.
He does.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I wasn't familiar with how he had it set up, but generally he makes an image with all this stuff already installed available to people who
yes.
want. Okay.
And a beautiful UI for user interface, and it's very. He's done hours and hours and hours of work on it, and so there's probably no reason that it shouldn't work with your Nexus boards.
Yeah, I don't think it would have any problem. You'd have to go in and configure the sound interface, of course, yourself.
Sure, sure.
But yeah, should work fine.
Hey, you might have to configure the web port as well, or maybe change that.
And that's available. Yeah, you can change those parameters very easily. In fact, when I was searching for how I would display it on the Mac here, I had found some documentation that it said it was on port 8081, and when I booted it up, I tried that, no luck. So I watched it boot up, and it told me that no, it was actually doing it on 8080. So this is my solution now, but I know that I can go and change those values on there so that it's on whatever port I wanted it on, within reason.
Well, thank you, Peter. That's really interesting. Has anybody else got anything to bring up or share with us tonight? We have one more presentation that we'll throw out here in a few minutes or so, but if somebody has questions or something they want to bring up, go ahead, speak up now. I'm experimenting here with this OBS software, and I found that, much to my surprise, that my Logitech camera, which has autofocus on it, wouldn't autofocus when I was using it with OBS. And I got into the properties of my camera and found where I could manually focus the camera. It was pretty bad, but I could manually focus the camera. I wasn't going to use it tonight, but I think I've got it. It's still not as good as if I run the camera just straight and not have OBS in the middle. But I'm going to try to do a little presentation here tonight using OBS. And if I move this over here. So this is a project that Galen brought over that we wanted to work on. Um, this is his Go Kit, and you'll be able to see here a few minutes here. We basically gutted his entire Go Kit out and put it back together again. Not before we let a nice puff of smoke come up out of the center of this thing. That was exciting. Both of us were excited when that happened. We might share more about that later. But Galen, why don't you jump in here and let's tell people what nonsense we were up to.
Well, I built this Go Kit several years ago, and it was my effort to educate myself and learn and do things. So there are a few things, assumptions I made that showed just how naive I was. For instance, I put in both male and female AC plugs, not understanding that that one of those was probably shouldn't have been connected or put in, but it did have the fortunate value that it let me be a pass through. I could pass through my wiring. Anyway, I brought it partly with the intent. Bud and I had talked about redoing the plastic cover I'd made for it, manufactured for it myself, and doing some laser cutting. So we were looking at the the power situation because I wasn't comfortable with.
Yeah,
what
I
had
was a
done.
little behind you, Galen. These are the two ports you're talking about.
Right. One's a male and one's a female. And I did not understand that one of those really is not meant to put power into. But anyway, Bud clarified that for me. But in the process, Bud, thinking things through for me, said, well, what if you end up feeding power back into your power supply somehow? And we decided that would probably not be a good thing philosophically, if not practically. So we looked at my wiring, and sure enough, there was a way for the power to go back into the power supply the wrong way.
From a battery, yeah.
From the battery. And so once we did a little thinking, a little rewiring, and now what we have is a surefire way that we can't backfeed into the power supply from a battery. If you take the long line, you see the black cable, that is coming from a external power supply, 12 volt, and it's going in and feeding the DC in. So that goes into my power distribution board rather than, and then that little short loop you see now is what we would, if I plug into AC power, we just put that in and that becomes the path to the power distribution board. So we can no longer, when moving between battery or some external AC, we can no longer inadvertently put power back into the power supply. This eliminates that possibility. This is all the stuff that we took out, plus some stuff that's actually not showing there when we started working on the trying to get it back in so that we could make the new top. The new top laser, we were going to laser cut it. The laser cutter is right below this stack of stuff. And so from here we went to, I guess.
Well, let's go over everything that's here.
Okay. So that's my Kenwood, the TM71A.
Yeah.
And then that's a B-Tech tri-band radio, and then the Pi, keyboard and mouse. I mean, all those things have to fit in there, plus all that extra cable and the mics and things. So it turns out that, back when I did this, I found this power distribution board, which is also a battery charger. So with this, I could charge batteries and USB things and run it off the power supply, feed in, and then I could juice up some batteries if I needed to. So
but unfortunately, there's these pins right here. It's difficult to see, but there's actually 4 of them, and why it only looks like there's 3 in the photo, I'm not sure. But Galen was using, he was taking 5 volts from here and using it to run a powered USB hub. And this writing is really small. And Galen didn't have his reading glasses with him, and I've been having some trouble getting my eyes to focus. And so we have this plug that's supposed to plug on here, and it's going to power the USB hub. And
and I forgot to check where it was when I pulled it off, so I don't remember.
Well, there's 4 ways to hook this plug up, and 3 of them are wrong, and they're all right next to each other. So we put it in, and we hooked the power up, and we're sitting there looking at it, and all of a sudden there's a plume of smoke rising straight up from this board. And the good news is all we had done was take a ground wire. Basically, we shorted 5 volts straight to ground. And this wire, this small wire, turned into a heating element, which melted the plastic on the insulation and made for a little bit of excitement in the shop. But other than the damage to the wire, there was no damage done to anything else. So we squeaked by and got lucky there. But it was exciting, right, Galen?
Oh, yes. I was, thinking dollar signs as I started having to replace equipment. Now, it turns out that this wonderful little device that I'm using for power distribution was this. And unfortunately, as of August of 2022, it is no longer available.
Yeah, I have one of these boards too. It's actually a kit. I think I bought mine up at the summer gathering.
I built mine. So.
Yeah, and I built mine, and it's designed to fit right on top of one of these standard 12-volt batteries. And but like Galen says, this is K9JEB. He's the guy that would come around. He's from, I think it's Kirkland, Redmond, and he sold J-pole antennas, really nice antennas.
I know, I've got some of those too.
Yeah, and had various kits and stuff, but he's no longer selling them. So if you're saying, hey, where do I get one of those? You don't. And there it is again.
Okay. Now, but I still haven't looked up the little connectors that you wanted me to look up for the antennas.
Okay, well, I think I thought they were going to be in the next.
They were in that picture.
Yeah, we're going to have a close-up of them too.
Oh, okay.
So we're using a laser cutter to try to cut acrylic top for his Go Kit. And so we went through sheets and sheets of cardboard, trying to get the corners rounded right, and the cutouts all where they're supposed to be. So, we did, more than half a dozen cuts. There's some more remnants of others back here that you'll see until we got it the way we wanted it. These are cool, and this is what Galen was just talking about. You found those on Amazon or where?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but I will dig up the reference as soon as I can. I've been busy.
Well, I think it's a real clever way of you got your radios inside the Go Kit, and then you want to hook up an antenna to them. And so that's what it looks like on the outside, and that's what it looks like on the inside. And that's just really slick, I think. So,
Okay. Again, looking at the back, so.
so he started to put stuff in. Oh, and these railings, we figured these railings out to rest the, you'll see as we get done, the panels that go over the top rest on these rails.
We have to go back and redo one of them. It came unglued, but
We'll work
you
on
know,
that.
this is what we keep learning new stuff all the time.
So there's the 71A is going in place.
Right. And this, one of the problems was, if you go back a couple slides, Bud. One
Actually,
more.
I have the slide you want coming up.
Oh, it's coming up?
Right there.
See that? That's that wire. That's the control cable. Well, I can't make a short, nice little decent control cable. I only had one that was about 1,000 long, yards long. And I had put those red plastic bands around it, and they were disintegrating and breaking down. Bud had to have this. We were able to, redo that big fat bundle and take it, and then more strategically, we were able to use the space under the radio. Now that it was a thinner bundle, we could put it in so it fits better right under the, and that's the control cable from the to the face of the radio. So that fits much better than it did before. It was that big red bundle that there. Now I still got too many big wires, but at least now we're getting close.
So he's got the 71A all in here. Next comes
the B-Tech. And it's just mounted on, a piece of board with everything's held down with Velcro. So the radios are actually pretty hard to move. If you don't get it exactly where you have to do it, you have to spend time readjusting and moving things. So I still have to tweak it a little bit, but we're in the process. Okay. Oh, by the way, there are there are mic hooks, what do you call them?
clips.
On the outside of the case, mounted out there so you can clip your mics on the outside. Keep them out of your way while you're working.
And then Galen decided to put the Nexus board on edge. So the panels are vertical now.
And this is a total reorientation, actually. Part of that was because, you'll see, I think
It'll come up here in a minute.
Oh, okay.
We'll come back to it.
Anyway, for getting the HDMI output from the and to be able to put my other have more inputs on the oh, come on, I'm just going blank on the USB. On the USB, I've got a USB hub that I'm using in here, and by bringing them out, those two connections out from the Pi up to the top of the case, that's the HDMI, and that one of those is the control cable to the 710, and the other is the serial USB cable over to the
It comes up in the shadow here. It's a round connector that has both HDMI and a USB on it.
Right, and so the hub you see there is connected over via that into that. That gets me to the Pi, and now I've got a nice selection of HDMI serial ports that I can plug in, USB ports that I can plug in thumb drives, whatever. This was originally how I had the all those cables connected. We're using these right angle because I had a different orientation to the Pi, so I had to make all sorts of angle changes. The result of that was that I ended up destroying a USB port on the Pi. It literally broke the Pi USB port apart because of the stresses of using these external connectors. So I've had to swap out my Pi for another one in order to be able to use it. And then there's this. This is how it looked when we finally got all the parts in. There is power. We were able to, everything worked. Although we did have several times once we kept putting things in and out and putting it back together where various cables broke. And so power would go away and we'd have to rewire things in order to, so I learned a lot about trying to put wires together and making them stay together.
This is a good shot of that connector that has the USB and the HDMI, and he's got the monitor mounted in the lid of the case. So it just tilts up and there's his screen right there.
And it is one of the most nasty reflective screens in the world. So, okay.
So
and
yeah,
the holes are so I could put in the my mics go down in the holes and the spaces in there when I'm traveling, and the mouse goes down in there. The keyboard sits down. I've got some foam that sits on top of everything that provides
he's
a
doing
little
something
bit
really cool here. This control panel for the Kenwood radio, he can lift it up and cradle it back down at an angle. It works. It's down like in the travel position right now.
right. Now we had to cut a little notch that's you don't see in this.
Yeah.
We had to go back and do a little work so we could get the cable that the control cable to pass through that nice tight hole we made in the original version.
We had to create the panel in two pieces, mostly because the panels that he ordered were 12 inches deep, and we needed more than 12 inches to cover the whole area. And then also because we're limited on the bed space of my laser cutter as to what I could actually cut. So we created two separate panels, and you can see they butt against each other here.
Or they squeeze a cable.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I need to pass cables up through the space that they allow, like these mic cables. You see the way it is now. If I pass it through the gap up above, I don't have it interfering with my keyboard. So it there gives you options.
It's ready to go.
Still working on the some things to hold the hub up so that it's in a better position than it is right now.
You can see the radio in its tilted position there. It just sets right down there and behaves itself. It's pretty slick. And then you see the clip on the side where he's got his microphone here. There's one on the other side for the other microphone. All in all, it's a real nice setup, ready to go.
Galen, is that a powered USB hub?
Yes, and that's why we fried when we.
Hence the smoke.
Yeah, the actual little cable I had going from the power distribution board to the hub is what smoked. The hub itself seems to be fine, but we did melt the wire. So now I need to make up a new connector between the board and the hub. So,
okay.
Yeah, it is. It's a 10 port hub, just what I happened to have at that point. So I just incorporated it.
Okay, yeah, for those of you who might be considering making one of these or following Galen's example, I would, if you decide to install an external hub, especially one with that many ports, be sure to get one that's powered, because the Raspberry Pi itself has very limited power on those 4 available USB ports, and you don't want to overload them. So a powered hub is a requirement.
I'm going to use a powered hub. I thought I had it laying around here somewhere. It's a one that runs off of 12 volts,
Mm-hmm.
and it has seven USBs in it, and it will go to this little B-Link computer that I have. The B-Link, and it has 4 USB ports, which sounds wonderful, but then when you keep in mind you've got to have a keyboard and a mouse with it. And so there goes 2. And then if you have a radio, and in that case I'm going to use an Icon 7100, it takes up one of those, but before you know it, you've run out of USB ports all over the place. And so you almost have to have one of those. And another thing, Galen, I was going to ask, I didn't see any speakers. Are the speakers in the radio good enough for you to hear the audio? I mean,
Well, okay, let's put it this way. My focus was to put together a digital Go kit.
okay,
The
digital.
speakers, I could hear the speakers. I don't have headphones for anything, but I was primarily trying to build a digital Go kit. So
Okay.
that's the modus I think, I want to try. Well, I believe we need to operate as much as possible.
Well, I found this little, well, it's still in the bag, but it basically gives you an option to hook up several different, and let me get it out of the way here.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, you can either go in and out, and the problem I have with the Kenwood TM D710G is that it has a left speaker and a right speaker, and you have to configure that, and it's kind of weird and awkward. And so what I'm going to do is I'll mount this thing somewhere, and then let me show it this way too. I can put a left speaker and a right speaker, and then I have 2 of these, by the way. I have 2 Kenwood TM D710s, and so I can hook them all together with an audio cable, and then deciding on which one I want to go through. I can't see this little box here, but I can also switch between the 2 units, and then this one knob is like a volume knob. So that's how I'm going to handle it. And but I do have the let me see if I got it over here. Okay, this is my little USB guy, and even though I've shown it with the power supply, it runs off of 12 volts.
Individually switched on and off ports too.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. And mine switch off 2 bands of 5, so
I see.
Turn on one.
And so anyway, and they light up so you know which one's on. And most of them are USB 3s. You see the blue there?
Mhm.
And again, oh, and I think, oh, okay. On this end, let me take out this.
Mhm.
Okay, that's that funky HP printer
Yeah.
guy. That
USB-B.
yes, and that goes
USB-B.
to the B link, to your one last hope USB, and then that then feeds all of this. And again, this is 12 volts. You can run this with 12 volts. And so that's kind of my answer to what you're doing there with your guy. You know, this guy right here, the power supply for it, you know, is just if I want to run it off, you know, on commercial power. But my goal is to have a 12 volts to run this thing. And as I say, the B-Link is wonderful, except that it only has 2 real usable ports. And one of them gets taken by the radio, and then everything else has to go through here. And so I was reading the instructions on this thing. It like manages the traffic so that I haven't fully tried it out yet, but anyway, that's one of the things that I'm working on with my Go Kit is to handle the audio and also handle additional USB ports when I need them. So, I mean, these are all problems we're all going to run into if you build one of these things. And I have a cousin who's a great woodworker, wood craftsman, and I had this 20-pound, couldn't believe I bought it, but I bought it, drawer, and it was made out of rolled steel. And I was telling my cousin about it, who has probably about $100,000 worth of woodworking equipment in his garage. And he said, well, let me take a shot at it and see if we can replace it. So he took 2x4s and he had a bandsaw and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it was pretty amazing. And he made me a drawer out of wood, and it went from 20 pounds to less than a pound. And I said, now that is going to make this feasible, because with the shelves and the box and everything, before any radios got in it, it weighed 40 pounds. And I said, this is becoming ridiculous. You need a forklift to move it. And that was out of the question. So anyway, since Bud has a laser printer,
Well, anybody that wants to cut acrylic and do panels for their Go Kits, just get in touch. We can get together and make it happen. It's fun.
But anyway, I mean, there wasn't anything wrong with the drawer. It was certainly a very sturdy drawer made out of rolled steel, but it was a 2U, which is a standard two slot affair in these Sweetwater cases. And anyway, it just was too much. And anyway, if you can make a drawer out of wood, and he took 2x4s and he sliced them thin, and anyway, I've got a drawer now that's basically the same size, and I pull it out, and it can put in microphones. I think I can even get a keyboard in there and a mouse, and a few other odds and ends. So anyway, so that's where I'm going with my Go Kit. I had forgotten, Bud, about that plug that you showed that had the USB and an HDMI in. I'm assuming those are readily available on Amazon and other places.
Yeah.
What do I search for? Just
we might be able to find a link and get it up there for you, but it's I'll get it to you. But yeah, it's just, I believe that it was listed as being a motorcycle accessory, if you can imagine. So it's waterproof. It's meant to be outdoors.
okay.
So
Okay.
I guess it's out the shop, but anyway. So getting back to Peter, it was last week maybe, I was heading into Blaine in my truck, and Peter called me on 220, and he says, I want you to go look up what 3 words. And I'm driving a truck. I'm going, I can't look it up right now. I'm mobile, but as luck would have it, I'm going down the Bell Road, headed for Blaine, and right in front of me, the railroad guard arms come down. I am the first vehicle stopped by an empty coal train heading south, and that generally means you're going to be there for a while. So I got my phone out and I searched for what 3 words, and I encourage you to do this. In fact, I'll go ahead and get you jump started. I'll put a URL in the chat room. We're over here. I don't know which window to look at. Yeah. Anyway, you could try that out. It'll get you close, and you can backfeed, and you can maybe click on the. But anyway, so I look up these what 3 words, and basically, they've come up with a system that you can use to locate yourself or locate somebody else anywhere on the planet down to a 10-foot square. And they will give you 3 words. And so you can put an app on your phone, or you can go put them in a computer, and you put in these 3 words with a period in between them. So it's 3 words and 2 periods. And it will show you where that place is on the planet. And it's, I played around with it. I even put random words in to see where it might go. But
or you can enter a lat long, or you can
a street address,
or you can go to the map and zoom around and click on a place, and it will give you the 3 words that you could send to somebody in email, so that you could describe exactly where you want them to go or meet you or whatever, and they click on it and it'll come up in Google Maps or Google Earth or whatever, and so you can tell somebody to meet you at a place that's within 10 feet by 10 feet.
Exactly. And I was, as I was installing it on my phone, I was reading some of the description that they were coming up with, and I think I have a clue as to what's going on. They basically say that the words are generated at random. So you can mark 2 places that are 20 feet apart, and you'll have 2 sets of 3 words, and there will be no connection between those sets of words. Nothing to suggest that they're near each other. And so, and this is worldwide, it's the entire planet. So my hunch is that the first time someone wants to get their 3 words for their 10-foot square, they're generated at random, and then they're stored in a database, and they never change. That's what the description said, is that the words are generated at random, but they will never change. They will always identify that same spot. Well, I got home, and like I said, I put it on my phone, and I was playing with the app, and I got 3 words, and it showed me where I was sitting in my house. I was sitting in a particular chair in my living room, and the dot on the map was right where that chair was with those 3 words. I'll post this URL for you in the chat room. It'll take you right to the 3 words website. And as it comes up, you'll see a map. And if we scroll out on this map, you'll find that we are in Blaine, and this location designated by the 3 words natives, pictured, and Bravo. You set them up with periods between the 3 words, and you can put them into a URL that is what3words.com/natives.pictured.bravo, and it will show you the location of our winter field day site in Blaine. And we can zoom in on that. I can turn the satellite view on for us. And if we zoom right in on this location, those of you that attended last year and those of you that joined us for the salmon run last September will recognize this, as this is the spot exactly right here that we held our amateur radio outdoor event in Blaine. So that's pretty slick, but just something to experiment with. The thing that comes to my mind is that when we give out latitude and longitude, which is highly accurate, but it also requires a certain amount of attention, and it's not like you can remember the latitude and longitude to be able to repeat it 2 minutes later. But if you have identified 3 words like natives, pictured, and Bravo, and you can remember that for a half hour or whatever, you could say, yeah, natives, pictured, Bravo on the radio, and anybody should be able to find it. So play with it.
Well, I'm curated, arranged. Peter was nice enough to give me one.
Oh, I didn't put a D at the end. No wonder you're out in the ocean. Let's get you on dry land.
There you go.
I think that's you, Dave.
You're absolutely right. That's my house. And
down in Denton, Texas.
But I do see the great utility of this. At first, I did thought, what in the world would you want to do this for? But as I say, like I have my latitude and longitude memorized. I mean, it's one of the few things I have burned into my DNA here. But you know, it is kind of a pain if you had to read it out over the air. And you know, another thing is if you're in an see, you guys all worry about the big 9.0 earthquake, and that's what you get prepared for. But here we have tornadoes and big thunderstorms roll through, and then occasionally a hurricane hits the Gulf and brings rain up here, and so it's amazing how many weather events we have that really get people's blood pressure up. And one of the things I want to do is need an accurate location. And anyway, I might mention that at a radio club meeting. But what's the name of this, Peter, called? What is this called again? 3 words or something?
What? 3 words.
What?
No spaces. WHAT 3, the number 3, and words. WORDS.
How did you find this thing?
As I say, I was reading the newsletter for a radio club down in California. I subscribed to it for some special reasons, and so they referenced it. I knew that I had also bumped into it one time when I was looking for something about a mountaintop around here, and I looked and I found that they had some hiking trails, and they, for purposes of getting the hikers into the right places or whatever, they used it, but I'd totally forgotten exactly what it was. So I was glad when I bumped into it on this Radio Club newsletter. And so now I know that I had seen it before, and now I know what 3 words is, and I can see numerous uses for it.
Well, I could see it coming in handy, like with soda. That might be interesting. But what about an actual what 3 words amateur event like our salmon run, or one of these QSO parties where your exchange was your 3 words? And
maybe, yeah.
I don't know if you could take a list of them and spreadsheet or something and then feed them into be mapped. I wouldn't be surprised if that's not a possibility.
But that's an awfully long exchange.
Yeah.
Tex, for what it's worth, I ended up in New York City trying to find you. So
Me?
yeah.
Well, I ended up on the ocean. I should have panned back to see which ocean you were in.
I'm pretty sure I'm in the middle of New York City Hall, in fact.
Yeah, see, that's the problem, Galen. We have to spell the words right.
Yeah,
And
well,
that is a requirement.
yes, one of my big gotchas.
Yeah.
I'm using the Firefox on Linux, and when I start typing it in, it gives me choices for different areas. So I could pick whether I wanted it in New York or Texas or several different places.
Well, when you set up the app on your phone, they want to know what language you're going to use. So,
Yeah.
Well, Texan is the only language you need to know.
Texan.
I lived in England one time, and my girlfriend had a grandson, and his name was Ben, and he called me Papa. And one day he waddles up to me and he says, "Papa, when are you going to learn how to speak English?" And this is a 6-year-old kid telling me this. I said, "Ben, I'm going to have to teach you some English." So, well, guys, it's time for me to go to bed here.
Yeah, let's throw it out there one more time. Anybody have something they want to share with the group, or go ahead, Rob.
I had a couple questions for Galen, actually, back to his kit, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
One is that keyboard looked like it was the perfect size fit for that box there. So I don't know how many keyboards you went through to get to that one, but good job on that. I can't hear you.
Okay.
There you go.
Just a second. There's something I got to tell you about that keyboard. Hang on. I'm reaching for it. This little puppy, it's actually a roll.
Oh, it's a flexible. Oh,
it's a roll. Okay. And yeah, but that's the interesting thing. So I actually have a piece of plastic that I cut that lays under this, and I usually have it taped down to that piece of plastic so that when it sits in the case, but it's a roll up.
Okay, that I should have figured that out by the little square attachment, or the cable coming into the little square thing on the keyboard.
You mean right? See.
Yeah, well, the controller unit. Yeah.
What is the name of that keyboard?
Rock Soul.
Who?
Yeah, but anyways, that looks like it's a perfect fit for that kit there.
Yeah, it's a Rock Soul. ROCKSOUL.
Yeah, I'm looking at the photo here, Rob, and it's an exact fit. It's like it was built just for that case.
Yeah, that's, like I said, great choice on that. That just
okay. And was there something else?
Yeah, actually, I had a question for you. On that switching power supply, do you have any RF interference or RF noise in the radios from that, or is it pretty quiet?
Well, I haven't noticed, but then, I am not exactly what you call sensitive to a lot of stuff. So it may be there, but I may not be tuned into it.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious because I was looking at a couple of them. I tried a couple for my potential Go kits that I was trying out, and I got so much noise from the switching power supplies that I still, if that's quiet, I'll get one like yours then, because the ones that I tried were just so noisy.
Well, I don't know. I mean, this was a cheap my power supply is a cheap $30 Chinese switching power supply. It's all it is.
Yeah.
I think it's a 30 watt, and I think I didn't spend that much on it, honestly. I got cheap, and the way everything fits in there, I've been able to use it and use mostly, like I say, I use it digitally, and so it works fine.
Is that probably like what about a 30 amp switching?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, well, I'll look for that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sure.
That's all I got. Great job on the kit too, by the way.
Thank you.
It is.
Well, I'm done.
I might have a suggestion for Galen as far as using the that big long extension that you had to wrap up to get from the main body of the radio to the head.
Mm-hmm.
You can use a telephone. That's a telephone plug. So if you happen to have a crimper, you can make up a short cable. It's actually pretty straightforward.
Is it like just an RJ11?
Yeah.
With four lines, or?
I don't know. I've got one. No, it would be I would get the one with
6.
It's been a long time since I did one, but I think you get the one with what, 6 or
Like an RJ45.
no, they're the telephone
Okay.
size. I mean, I had all of this equipment back when telephones were, you wired up DSL and all this other stuff. So I have a crimper if you ever wanted to. You just go to Home Depot and buy the ends.
I have all of that stuff, Galen. It'd be worth a try, but we probably have the cables already in our junk box.
But remember, one end has a connector on it. The other is right into the controller.
Oh, it's fixed. It's permanent.
So, it's one of those situations where if I cut it and I screw it up, I will never be able to, probably make it work. So I am leaving it as it is.
Yeah, good plan.
Because, all I need to do is try to shorten it and end up, because the controller, the cable actually goes straight into the controller. It doesn't plug into the controller itself. So
I'd suggest going to Home Depot or Best Buy or Fred Meyer's and get the telephone curly Q telephone thing. You can cut one end off, strip it, and feed it into your thing, and you already got the plug on it.
That's the TMV 71 Kenwood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, if that's the one that's going from the cable that's going from the body to the front panel, the detachable, it's a RJ going into the main body, or it's a RJ45 plug going into the main body, and it's a RJ11 or something similar to a RJ11 that's plugging into the faceplate. So it's got two different size plugs on that.
That's not how it.
That's what I'm looking at on mine, anyways. I've got.
Okay, that's the same on mine. That's how you have me
That's
sort of
what
puzzled.
I thought, but it. Okay.
Galen, this is right out of my 71.
There you go.
For
That's
the
it.
expansion kit for making it headless. One's an
It must
RJ11,
unplug from
one's a telephone.
It must unplug from the control panel, Galen.
Yeah. It's a you can shorten these if you want, but this is right for my 71A. I'm not using it now, so I've just got it in the other corner. But it's the two different sizes. One's the telephone size, and one's this size. So you could change it and cut it and make it shorter.
Okay, guys. Maybe there's something I don't know about getting into the controller module. I can't get it out, but all it does is it disappears into a hole in the side of the.
Yeah, but does
controller.
the back of that thing come off?
Well, if it does, I don't know how to get it off.
Yeah.
You want me to look at it?
Yes, it
My
does.
wife says she can fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There it is. Look at your screen, Galen.
Yeah.
That's what we're missing. Show me. You got to speak, Rob, Dave, so it'll go to you.
This is the one I've got right here. This is the back of the.
Okay, so that comes off. I didn't
That
know
comes
that.
off, and then here's the cord itself. Two different sizes.
Then I probably have one somewhere.
Yeah, so you could just shorten these. And make another one if you.
Well, that's good to know. I'll go out and look in my, cable, in my supplies and see if I've got it.
Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but can't you plug an RJ11 plug into an RJ45 jack?
I don't know about that, but I was kind of thinking if the wiring is the same, which I have no idea, so I might be talking just completely wrong, which is usually a thing. But there might be a chance that you can do just a regular net cable RJ45 and have like an adapter, but it probably wouldn't fit into the back of the head unit because it's a really tight spot, or the other way around. I don't know. Use an adapter on the RJ45 side. That'd probably be better, but who knows?
Dave, that short cable came with your original when you bought the radio,
And
right?
it's a long cable. It's that long, and I've just got it all wound up to be short. But it's like what you have. It's a really long cable.
Yeah, but there is another. Was another cable?
Yeah, it came with a short one. If you keep it together, you don't take the base plate off, the front plate off, and that's what's on there now. I changed it from the Go Kit like a U back to putting it together.
So there's not like an 18-inch one, or
no, I think there's like a 3-inch that comes normal with it or something like that, and then the 10-footer or something.
Yeah, it's about that.
Get it from the rear of the vehicle to the front of the vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
and to modify the cable to make it shorter, it's easier said than done. I mean, you have to have the proper like networking, crimping, and cutting and whatever tools. It makes it a hell of a lot easier. Otherwise, it's just kind of a
My cousin has one of those tools.
MacGyver
to
job.
do an RG45, and
I've got them.
And it can be like a $35 tool that you're only going to use twice in your life.
That's why he used the one Bud's got.
I have them both also. So if somebody wants to borrow them, you're certainly welcome.
Well, mine does 3 different sizes. So when I did my electric Volkswagen, the communications cable going from all the battery management system used, I think it was called a RJ12 maybe. It wasn't an 11, and it was in between an 11 and a 45 in terms of size, but the crimper that I have does all 3 sizes.
Okay, well, I'll get the back off, take a look, and maybe Bud and I can futz around eventually. And maybe we can make a short one. That'll work. Thanks for the ideas and thanks for the input on that.
It's late. What time is it over there, Dave, in Texas? You need to go to bed.
10:34. I'm an hour and a half past my bedtime.
Yeah.
That's how important this is to me.
Well, it's good to see you.
All right.
Thank you all. And And as I say, I'll try not to talk Texan because I don't want y'all to be, befuddled. But anyway, I've learned a lot, and I'm going to proceed onward with my Go Kit now that I got rid of that rolled steel 20-pound drawer, and it now makes it pretty feasible to pick it up and move it around. So anyway, well, see you all next time.
Adios.
Adios.
Ciao, baby.
Okay, I see Rob put in a link to a YouTube video from KM4ACK. I'll have to check that out. See what he's up to. He's got good videos. All right, I'm going to pull the plug unless somebody says, hey, don't.
Yeah, maybe next month I might have something for you guys. I kind of blew my WinLink playing with that Samba camera. So I got to come up with a Pi alternate for my WinLink on my Linux computer.
Okay.
So something to work on. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. See you later.
Good night, everybody.
Night. Night all.